Hi, this is Chris Brown of TPR Tools, creator of the Regulation Station, and I would like to complete my cycle of use videos with a brief discussion about refinement and scalability. We're faced with performing our work to different constraints. And if you have a job that you have 4 hours pay for, clearly setting up the regulation station may not be a good answer for it. But if you have some kind of a larger scale job from a day to several days worth of work, why the time spent setting up is very cost effective. Now, at the end of the job, if you've gone through the steps that I've outlined, you will have a professional job. The piano will play well, but there is room for refinement. The closer you get to perfection, the more details can show up. And also there's the problem of materials added to the system, changed in the system. We turn a let-off button, and now the punching is in a different position that is softer than where it was worn into. For various reasons, the action needs playing in. Now, if you have a thumper, great. You can just run the thumper a certain amount of hours and then return to refine your regulation. If one solution is to install it in the piano and let your player play on it for a period of time and then return to do your final work. And another is to just go through and settle things. Like, for instance, when I do this, I'm settling out the knuckles, the whipping cushions, and the back rail cloth fairly rigorously. If there's something fluffy that will settle out quickly, that will take care of it. For balance and back rail, you can just go like this. Another solution is to lower the templates down to hammerline and apply a fair amount of pressure at the keys. Now, variant on this with slightly less leverage, but you get them all in one, is just to go like that. This settles the balance rail punchings, and it settles this part of the system as well, the knuckles in particular. Of course, you can also go through and settle your front rail punchings. One of the difficulties for us in the piano trade is to get to the truth of the situation. And if the truth is that you have limited resources and one pass-through is what is appropriate, then that's fine. If you have a very demanding customer to whom budget is not the issue but accuracy is, then settling things out and refining them makes a difference. Okay, now the refinement part is easy because we're all set up. You might do things in the order of logic that you had done your work in previously. For instance, you'd go through and check your dip. And you just go from one to the next and see if it's what you thought it was, or what you set it at. And if not, just touch it up. That's easy. We'll wait for the sharp dip until later when we analyze the aftertouch. Then you might set up your regulating rack. Oops. Sorry. To strike and touch up your back checks. And then go through and touch up your springs. And then, with the springs in place, go through and just check. You might take this off, but you can now check for the position of your jacks relative to the knuckles. And you can just go through one after another, or you can raise them up and sight down them. I sometimes put a straight edge against them so they're all the same. But anyway, so your jacks. Now that your jacks and your springs are in place, you just lower the regulating rack down to hammer line and touch up your hammer line. And now that you have a refined hammer line, you can go through from one to the next and check your winking, which is the position of the balancier relative to the jack. So now, with all that in place, we go up to check our let off and drop. And we take the thickness gauge that we originally did it at. We don't have to go back to the piano and take new samples. We have the information we need right here. And we set up the treble. And we want the bass to be a bit more, so it's the second tier of our dimension gauge. Okay, now we go through just from one end to the other and check our let off and drop and adjust it as needed. When we're done with that, we now have a refined dip, a refined blow distance that is stable, and a refined let off and drop. And so we can go through at strike, or a perfectly good way to do it actually is at let off and check our aftertouch from one to the next. And one thing that this will show up is if refinements are needed in our sharp dip. So basically this dip is set and the aftertouch should be in place. If there are anomalies in our natural aftertouch, we can look to see the source of it. And when you have your aftertouch all even, you are ready to go to the piano, do the final fine spacing and the hammer to string fit during the final tuning so that it's at pitch and in tune, and you'll have a great job. It's a setup for success. The Grandwork Regulation Station. Thank you very much.